Hey, welcome to the channel. We hope that you enjoy today's stories and check out the chapters on the video to see all the stories for today. But before we get into this video, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon to get notified when we release a new video. So let's get into the video.
Evil feeling presence in the woods of Georgia. Came here hoping anyone could share similar experiences or give insight. I took a trip to stay in a cabin in the middle of the woods high up in the mountains of the city of Ranger, Georgia, USA. This neighborhood was 30 minutes up in the mountains away from civilization, and even the cabins were spread far apart. The front deck of the cabin was completely exposed to the woods, so I acknowledged that any animals could stroll along if they pleased. But I stayed there for about a week, and me and my boyfriend sat outside on the front deck every night, very late, and at no point felt in danger. It was peaceful with fireflies out and sounds of crickets every night. Until the fifth night, it was eerily dark too, the moon was covered heavily. It was about midnight, and all of a sudden, I didn't feel peace like I did those other nights. The forest went completely quiet, and I felt a horrible sense of dread. I genuinely feared for my life. I sat there in my chair looking out into the dark forest, trying to rationalize and calm myself down that it was my mind playing tricks, but all of a sudden, my boyfriend said out loud that he felt unsafe. I told him I felt the same, and we ran inside. The cabin has 3 floors, and we were able to climb out the window and sit on the roof because we wanted to still be outside and relax. Didn't matter how high up I was, I felt something truly evil and stayed inside. The only other time I felt something so evil or like someone was watching was when I had a few paranormal experiences at a haunted house. Georgia doesn't really get mountain lions. Maybe a bear, but it didn't feel that way at all. Update: holy crap, I just remembered something about that night. I remember hearing a blood-curdling scream, and we pulled out a flashlight. Turns out it was a gray fox, and it made scary screaming sounds. The weird part was that the fox was running and had its ears and tail down. This was in June, and I just read that foxes scream like that when it's the mating season or if they're in danger. Their mating season is winter/spring, so that was also afraid of something.
Something in my home is scaring my son. My son and I moved into a house about 3 months ago. I've only ever had one ghost experience, and it was me seeing my dead grandfather for 2 seconds when I was 9, so I'm not a pro at all of this stuff. Ever since we moved in, my sons have been scared to sleep alone. I assumed it was because it was a new environment, but then he told me a black shadow man lays with him every night and keeps him up whispering. I thought maybe it was a bad dream, but now he won't even go in his room unless it's daytime. He tells me when he goes to sleep, the shadow man tries to lead him somewhere in his dreams, and all he hears is me crying. My 7-year-old son is telling me these things. I myself saw a black mass kind of glide down the hallway that my son's room is in, kind of hovering over the ground. I've heard creaking outside my bedroom. The doors will all be locked. I don't know what to think of any of this. I can't even make excuses, because now I have witnessed it myself. Any idea on what this might be? I'm desperate.
Weirdest experience in my home ever since I bought it. I bought my home for 4 years and have had a lot of strange things happen while living here. I am in my 40s and have never had any paranormal experiences before moving into this house. I have a lot of lights turning on and off, sinks turning on by themselves full blast, the vacuum turning on by itself, items disappearing and reappearing, paintings starting swinging on the walls, and music randomly playing from all the speakers in my home at once as examples. Even the HVAC guy who recently worked on my furnace asked me if my house was haunted because he witnessed things turn on and move on their own. Earlier today, I dropped an earring on the floor. I watched as it dropped and hit the floor. I saw it on the floor. I bent down to pick it up, and it disappeared. Like it was there 1 second and gone the next. I looked all around for it. I got a flashlight, moved furniture that was sort of nearby, and looked underneath. I even got a broom and swept the area trying to find it. It was gone. It literally disappeared into thin air right in front of me. I felt like I was going crazy. I left the house and went on a long walk to clear my head. I came back, looked for it some more and again couldn't find it. I then said out loud, "Very funny, you made your point, just let me find it before I go crazy." I then had the urge to look for a specific place for it and found it. There is no possible way it could have gotten where I found it from where I dropped it. For the record, I do live alone and no one else was at my house today.
If you're enjoying today's video, smash that like button and consider subscribing to the channel for more videos and interesting stories. Now let's get back to the stories of our lives.
An encounter I had in an apartment. I used to live in an apartment a few years back. That apartment, once you entered, felt so heavy and dark, even if you opened the windows, it still felt like there was no light coming in. Well, there were many things I witnessed, but the first thing right off the bat was that you could hear a baby crying in the hallway bathroom even when you would walk and the cries wouldn't stop. My mom used to pour holy water every 3 months in the toilet since we found out that the holy water kept the baby silent for 3 months, and once you started to hear the baby whining, we knew that it was time again to pour holy water. Other times I would be in the living room and hear all the dishes fall and break, but once I would take a look there were no broken dishes. Another time I was sleeping, and I woke up to the feeling of someone staring at me. And then I felt someone sit right on the edge of my bed, but I couldn't move to take a look until I felt whatever it was has left. There were also times when toys would just start making noises even when they didn't have batteries. But yeah, that's all when I was in that apartment. But I still had more stuff happen to me at other houses I used to live in. If y'all want me to post more, let me know.
The experience that made me question it all. Let me start by saying I come from a deeply religious family, where we never spoke about the paranormal. That being said, I've had many different experiences in my life that cannot be explained. Before my husband and I moved, we were in a newer townhouse and were only the second or third tenants. There were several times I had seen different things or even experienced voices. My stepson even would tell us that his friend Charlie came to visit at night. One night when it was just my husband and I home, we were together talking in bed. I started to hear a quiet whistle, like a song. I had asked my husband if he could hear it, but he had suggested it was just the wind. About 5 minutes later we continued our conversation, and I had a blinding pain in my head come out of nowhere. At that moment my husband then heard the whistling. We both stopped and looked at each other. Only for the whistling to stop and the sound of footsteps pounding up our hallway stairs. My husband ran outside our bedroom, there was nobody there, and my sudden headache went away. Normally, I would think it was a nightmare, but both my husband and I had heard the whistling, the footsteps, and then the pain. When my mother heard about what happened a few weeks later during a family dinner, she pulled me aside and let me know that I needed to be careful because I had always been sensitive to the other side. Needless to say, this specific experience has always stuck with me.
I used to hunt ghosts and I found a something. As I grew older, the memory of the mysterious shadow that haunted my childhood bedroom stayed with me, and I became increasingly interested in the paranormal. I began researching the history of the apartment building and discovered that it had been built on the site of an old graveyard that had been relocated many years ago. This information only added to my curiosity, and I started delving deeper into the supernatural. One day, I met a group of people who shared my fascination with the unknown, and we formed a paranormal investigation team. Our first mission was to investigate my old apartment and see if we could uncover any evidence of the shadowy presence that had scared me so much as a child. We spent several nights in the apartment, using a variety of equipment to try and capture any paranormal activity. We set up cameras, audio recorders, and even a spirit box to try and communicate with any entities that might be present. At first, we didn't experience anything out of the ordinary, and I began to wonder if the shadow had just been a figment of my childhood imagination. However, on the third night, we heard strange noises coming from my old bedroom. We rushed in to investigate, and were shocked to see the shadow had returned, this time more defined and clearer than ever before. It was hovering in the air, almost as if it was watching us. We tried to communicate with the shadow using our equipment, but it didn't respond. Instead, it slowly began to fade away until it was completely gone. Despite the lack of evidence, we all knew that we had witnessed something truly paranormal. From that day on, my fascination with the supernatural only grew. I continued to investigate haunted locations with my team, and we had many more encounters with unexplainable phenomena. However, none of them ever quite matched the intensity of the shadow that had haunted my childhood bedroom. It remains one of the most intriguing and mysterious experiences of my life, and I doubt that I will ever forget it. If you've enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and check out more videos from the channel.